It was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. My engagement party was in full swing, and the garden looked like a fairy tale. I was wearing a vintage silk gown that cost $5,000. It was a soft cream color, delicate and perfect. I stood by the edge of the infinity pool, smiling at the guests. Caius, my fiancé, handed me his phone. He asked me to take a picture of him and his friends. I stepped back to get the best angle, holding his expensive device carefully. Suddenly, two strong hands shoved me hard from behind. I stumbled forward, losing my footing on the slick tile. I hit the water with a massive splash. The cold shock filled my nose and lungs. The heavy silk dress instantly soaked up the water, becoming a heavy anchor that dragged me down. I kicked hard, panic rising in my chest. I heard muffled laughter from above the surface. It was a cruel, distorted sound. I clawed my way to the steps, gasping for air. My makeup was running down my face and my hair was plastered to my skull. I felt completely humiliated. I looked up to see Caius pointing at me, laughing hysterically. He was doubled over, slapping his knee. "It's just a prank, babe, you should see your face," he yelled. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I climbed out, dripping wet, walked past the towels, and marched straight to the DJ booth. I snatched the microphone. The feedback screech silenced the party instantly. "The engagement is off," I said, my voice dead calm. "And Caius, you have 1 hour to move your stuff out of my house." Caius rushed toward the stage, a confused smile still plastered on his face. He clearly thought I was playing along with his twisted joke. "Isola, stop being dramatic," he said, loud enough for the front row to hear. "It's just a little water. I was trying to be funny. You need to loosen up." He reached out for his phone, which I was still clutching tightly in my left hand. "Give me my phone," he demanded, his voice dropping a little. "It's probably fried and I have important stuff on there." I took a step back, keeping the microphone close to my lips. "Actually," I said, my voice booming through the speakers, "the iPhone 15 is water-resistant up to 6 meters for 30 minutes, which means it's still unlocked." Caius's face went pale. The color drained from his cheeks faster than the water dripping from my dress. The laughter in his eyes died instantly. He realized why I hadn't dropped it when I fell. He realized I had been holding it the entire time I was underwater. The crowd was silent now. They sensed that the dynamic had shifted. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the one holding the weapon, and that weapon was his unlocked phone. He lunged for me, but I stepped back again. I looked down at the bright screen in my hand. The water droplets didn't stop the touchscreen from working. "Since we are sharing jokes tonight, here is a text message you sent 5 minutes before you pushed me," I announced. Caius froze. He looked like a deer caught in headlights. I read the message aloud, enunciating every word clearly. "She is holding the phone. I'm going to push her in the pool to fry it before she sees your message. Love you, babe." A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. My friends, his friends, and our families all stared at him in shock. I looked up from the screen and scanned the faces in the crowd. My eyes were cold. "Who is Babe?" I asked into the microphone. "Because it is certainly not me. I am the woman you just humiliated in front of everyone we know." Caius started shaking his head, mouthing the word "no" over and over again. But the evidence was right there in my hand. He had planned this. He wasn't just being a jerk. He was trying to destroy evidence of his cheating by physically assaulting me. The cruelty of it settled over the party like a dark cloud. I wasn't done yet. I was just getting started. I scrolled up on the text thread. The messages went back for months. "Ah," I said, my voice dripping with sarcasm. "The contact is saved as Pizza Hut." A few nervous chuckles broke out in the crowd, but most people were just horrified. "I wonder who picks up if I call Pizza Hut right now." I dialed the number and put it on speaker, holding the microphone up to the phone's speaker. The ringing sound echoed through the large white tent. Ring, ring. Suddenly, a phone started ringing inside the party tent. It was a loud, cheerful ringtone that cut through the tension. Everyone turned their heads toward the source of the sound. Nella, my maid of honor and supposed best friend, was standing near the buffet. She was frantically fumbling with her clutch purse, trying to silence the noise. Her face was bright red. "Pizza is here," I said dryly. The betrayal hit me then, a sharp pang in my chest, but I shoved it down. Nella looked up, her eyes wide with terror. She stopped trying to silence the phone and just let it ring. The sound was deafening in the silence of the garden. My best friend and my fiancé. It was a cliché, but it hurt like a knife twist. The crowd parted around her like she was contagious. Caius snapped. He tried to grab the microphone from my hand, his face twisted in anger. "Stop this," he screamed. "You are crazy." My security team, whom I had hired because we had VIP investors attending, stepped in immediately. Two large men in black suits blocked his path. They didn't look amused. "Get out," I told him, pointing to the gate. "Both of you." Nella was already running toward the exit, stumbling in her heels, tears streaming down her face. Caius, however, tried to argue. He puffed out his chest, trying to look tough in front of the security guards. "I paid for this party," he shouted, pointing a finger at me. "You can't kick me out of my own party." "No," I corrected him, my voice amplifying over the speakers one last time. "You put the deposit on my credit card. I just canceled that card 10 minutes ago while I was drying off." He looked down at his phone, realizing his financial lifeline was cut. He was broke, he was wet from the splash he caused, and he was now single. He looked around for support, but no one would meet his eyes. Defeated, he turned and walked away, his wet shoes squishing loudly on the patio stones. The party was over, but my war was just beginning. The next morning, the silence of my house was broken by aggressive banging on my front door. I checked the security camera. It was Cosima, Caius's mother. She looked furious. I opened the door, keeping the security chain on. "You ruined his reputation," she screamed before I could even say hello. Her face was flushed, and she was waving her hands around wildly. "He was just blowing off steam. Men make mistakes. You didn't have to humiliate him like that." I looked at her calmly. I was wearing a silk robe, sipping coffee, feeling entirely in control. "He tried to destroy evidence of infidelity by physically assaulting me," I replied. My voice steady. "That is not a mistake, Cosima. That is a strategy, and it failed." "He loves you," she shrieked. "He was just scared you would misunderstand his friendship with Nella." "Friendship?" I raised an eyebrow. "He called her babe and planned to destroy my property. You are enabling a liar." I went to close the door, but she stuck her foot in the jamb. "You will pay for this," she hissed. "You think you are so smart with your company and your money, but you will be lonely." I kicked her foot away gently but firmly and slammed the door. I locked it and went back to my coffee. I thought the worst was over, but Caius was desperate to control the narrative. Later that afternoon, Leona, my assistant, sent me a link. Caius had uploaded a video of the push to TikTok. He had edited the footage to make it look like a fun moment. He cut out the part where I grabbed the microphone. The caption read, "Karen fiancé can't take a joke, dodged a bullet." I watched as the view count climbed. It was already at 50,000 views. The comments were filling up with strangers calling me names. "She looks like no fun," one user wrote. "Alpha males don't need women who can't laugh," said another. He was getting likes from accounts that thrived on hatting women. He thought he had won the internet. He thought he could shame me into taking him back or at least silence me. He forgot one very important detail. I own a tech company. I understand data and I understand receipts. He was playing a game of checkers and I was playing 4D chess. I didn't get angry at the comments. I didn't reply to the trolls. I simply picked up my phone and called my security team. "Send me the raw footage from the venue cameras," I said. "Every angle you have." I sat at my computer and reviewed the security footage. It was high definition and captured everything perfectly. I found the perfect angle. It showed him shoving me with force, not a playful nudge, but a hard push. It showed him checking his own pocket to make sure his phone was safe. It showed the malicious look on his face. And most importantly, it showed the aftermath, me destroying him on the microphone. I didn't edit a single frame. I posted the raw 3-minute video to my own social media channels. I captioned it simply, "He missed the water resistance rating," and the point. Within an hour, the tide turned. The internet loves a receipt, and this was the ultimate receipt. The hashtag #waterproofrevenge began to trend on Twitter. People were dissecting his facial expressions. They were laughing at his panic when I mentioned the phone was waterproof. The alpha male comments disappeared, replaced by thousands of women cheering for me. Caius's edited video was flagged for misinformation and taken down, but my video was everywhere. He had tried to use social media to bully me, but he had just handed me the microphone again. His plan had backfired spectacularly. The viral fame had real-world consequences. Caius worked in sales for a large logistics firm. His boss was a man named Leland. Leland happened to be one of the angel investors in my tech startup. We had a good professional relationship. The next morning, my phone rang. The caller ID showed Leland's name. "Isola," he said, skipping the pleasantries. "I saw the video. Is it true he pushed you?" "Yes, Leland," I said, "and he tried to destroy my property to hide his affair." There was a pause on the line. Leland was a no-nonsense man. He valued integrity above everything else. "I can't have employees who assault partners," Leland said firmly. "It's a liability, and frankly, it's disgusting. He represents my company when he talks to clients. I can't have a man with that kind of judgment on my payroll." "I understand," I said. "He is coming in for a meeting in 10 minutes, Leland told me. "He won't be leaving with a job." Caius was fired before lunch. He lost his salary, his commission, and his company car all in one swift stroke. He had tried to ruin my reputation, and instead he had torpedoed his own career. I felt a grim satisfaction. Actions have consequences. I returned home that evening to find that Caius was not gone. In fact, he had barricaded himself in the guest room. I tried the handle, but it was locked tight. "Caius, get out," I said through the wood. "I have tenants' rights," he shouted back. His voice was muffled but defiant. "I have lived here for 2 years. You can't kick me out without 30 days written notice. I checked the laws." He was technically right. In our state, if someone lives in your home for more than 30 days, they establish residency. Even though he didn't pay rent, I couldn't just throw his clothes on the lawn and change the locks. The police wouldn't remove him without a court order, and an eviction process could take months. He knew this. He was banking on it. He thought he could stay here, make my life miserable, and force me to pay him to leave. But I didn't need to kick him out legally. I just needed to make him want to leave. I walked away from the door and went to my office. I pulled up the smart home control panel on my tablet. "Okay, Caius," I whispered. "If you want to stay, let's make it memorable." I own the smart home system. Every light, every lock, and every thermostat is connected to my central network. I started my campaign of discomfort immediately. First, I locked the thermostat to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. The air conditioning kicked on with a roar, blasting freezing air into the house. It was the middle of autumn, so the house grew cold very quickly. Next, I went into the bathroom settings. I turned off the hot water heater for the guest bathroom specifically. If he wanted to shower, it would be an ice bath. Finally, I programmed the lighting system. I set the lights in the guest hallway and the guest room to strobe at random intervals during the night. I sent him a text message. "Comfort is a privilege for guests," I wrote. "You are not a guest anymore. You are an intruder." I heard him yelling from the guest room as the lights flickered on and off like a disco from hell. He pounded on the wall, but I put on my noise-canceling headphones. I sat in my master suite, which was set to a perfect 72 degrees, and continued my work. He wanted to play legal games. I would play biological ones. I knew Caius wouldn't give up easily. He was stubborn and felt entitled to my house. I needed more leverage, legal leverage. I installed small security cameras in the common areas, the kitchen, the living room, and the hallways. This was perfectly legal in my state as long as I didn't put them in the bathroom or his bedroom. For 3 days, I watched the feed. I saw him sneaking out of his room when he thought I was asleep. He would creep into the kitchen and raid my pantry. But then I saw something interesting. He took one of my expensive bottles of vintage wine. He poured the wine into a plastic water bottle and added some water to dilute the color. He was sneaking alcohol out of the house to meet Nella. I saved the clip immediately. Caius had a prior DUI from 3 years ago. He was still on probation. One of the strict conditions of his probation was that he could not consume alcohol. I attached the video file to an email and sent it to his probation officer. "I thought you should be aware of a violation," I wrote. Drinking wasn't just a bad habit for him, it was a ticket to jail. While Caius was out meeting his probation officer, a meeting that I'm sure went very poorly, I decided to do a full inventory of my valuables. I had a bad feeling. He was desperate for money since he lost his job, and desperate men do stupid things. I opened the safe in my closet. My passport and cash were there, but then I checked my jewelry box on the vanity. It was a heavy wooden box that had belonged to my mother. Inside, there was a velvet case that held my grandmother's emerald earrings. They were vintage, Art Deco style, and worth a fortune. I opened the velvet case. It was empty. My stomach dropped. Those earrings were the only thing I had left of my grandmother. I felt a surge of pure rage. I waited for him to come home. When he walked in, looking pale and shaken from his probation meeting, I confronted him in the hallway. "Where are they?" I demanded. "Where what?" he asked, avoiding my eyes. "My grandmother's earrings, the emeralds." "I don't know," he lied, shrugging his shoulders. "Maybe they fell in the pool when you fell." "You are a liar," I said. I turned and walked away before I did something violent. I called Leona. "Check every pawn shop in a 10-mile radius," I ordered. Leona is the best assistant in the world. She treats investigations like a sport. Within 2 hours, she called me back. "I found them," she said. "They are at a shop called Gold and Glory on 4th Street. "Did you get the seller's information?" I asked, my heart pounding. The owner faxed me the slip. The item was sold 3 days ago by a Caius last name. He used his driver's license for ID. I let out a breath I didn't know I was holding. He hadn't just stolen them. He had left a paper trail with his government name on it. He was not a criminal mastermind. He was just a greedy fool. "Don't buy them back yet," I told Leona. "I need the police to see them there." I hung up and called Eamon, my lawyer. Eamon was a shark in a suit. "Is it theft if he lived here?" I asked, worried about the domestic loophole. "It's grand larceny," Eamon said, his voice sharp. "The value is over $10,000. It doesn't matter if he slept in your bed. He took property that wasn't his and sold it. That is a felony. We have him." I had everything I needed to ruin his life completely. I could send him to prison for years. The theft, combined with the probation violation, would lock him away for a long time. But I just wanted him out of my house. I wanted peace more than I wanted vengeance. I typed up a simple document. I printed it out and walked to the guest room door. I slid the paper under the door. "Caius," I said, "read it." On the other side, I heard the rustle of paper. "What is this?" he asked. "It is an ultimatum," I said. "Option A, I call the police right now for the theft of my earrings. I have the pawn shop receipt with your signature. You will go to jail for grand larceny." Silence. He knew I wasn't bluffing. "Option B," I continued. "You leave tonight. You sign a fierce NDA that says you can never speak about me or my company again. You return the house key. If you do this, I won't press charges." The door clicked open. He stood there, looking defeated and tired. The cold house and the stress had broken him. "You're a monster," he whispered. "I'm a businesswoman," I said, cold. "Sign the paper." He took the pen. His hand was shaking. He was about to sign the agreement that would banish him from my life forever. But suddenly his phone buzzed. Then it buzzed again, and again. It was blowing up. He looked down at the screen. His eyes went wide. A strange smile crept onto his face. He turned the phone toward me. It was Instagram. Nella had just posted a photo. It was a sonogram picture. The caption read, "New beginnings amidst the hate. Baby due in December." Caius dropped the pen. He straightened his spine. The defeat vanished, replaced by a smug sense of purpose. "She's pregnant," he said. "That's my child." He kicked the paper away. "I'm not leaving," he declared. "I have to fight for my family. I need money to support my kid. If you want me out, you're going to have to buy me out. I want half the house value." He wasn't leaving. He smelled a payout. He thought a baby gave him moral high ground. He thought I would feel guilty. He was wrong. I didn't panic. I just looked at the picture on his phone's screen. My brain works in timelines and data. I zoomed in on the sonogram image. It was a standard medical printout. It had the estimated due date listed clearly, December 14th. I did the math in my head instantly. To have a due date of December 14th, the conception date would have to be around mid-March. "Caius," I said, my voice dangerously soft. "Look at the date." "I see it," he said defiantly. So what? You were in Europe on a business trip for the entire month of March, I said. You left on February 28th and came back April 2nd. I know because I paid for your plane ticket. He froze. The color drained from his face for the second time that week. Unless you can teleport, I said, crossing my arms. That is not your baby. He stood there, mouth open. The gears were turning in his head. The timeline didn't lie. He pulled up his calendar app, frantically scrolling back to March. He saw the flight confirmation. He saw the hotel bookings in London. He looked up at me, terror in his eyes. He called Nella. She didn't pick up. She wouldn't, he muttered. She told me she loved me. She loves your proximity to money, I corrected him. But you don't have any money anymore. I walked to my desk and pulled up the phone records I had downloaded before he wiped his phone on the night of the party. I had kept them as insurance. I scanned the log for Nella's number. I looked at the times she was texting him, but then I looked at the other numbers she was texting frequently. One number appeared over and over again. It was saved as Jim Buddy on his phone, but I recognized the digits. Caius, I said. Why was Nella texting Soren 5 times a day in March? Soren was Caius's best friend, the man who was supposed to be his best man. Ask Soren about the baby, I suggested, because based on these timestamps, they were spending a lot of time together while you were in London. Caius looked at the phone records. He saw the late-night calls between his mistress and his best friend. The betrayal was absolute. He had blown up his life for a woman who was playing him with his best friend. The reality crashed down on him. The arrogance evaporated. He sank to the floor in my foyer, putting his head in his hands. He started to cry. It wasn't a quiet cry. It was a loud, ugly sobbing. She played me, he choked out. I ruined everything for her. I lost my job. I lost you. I lost my home. And she played me the whole time. He looked up at me with tear-filled eyes. He looked pathetic. Isola, I am so sorry, he said. You were the only real thing I had. Please, can we just talk? I need a hug. He tried to stand up and reach for me. He wanted comfort. He wanted me to fix it like I always did. I stepped back, putting 3 feet of distance between us. My face was stone. Do not touch me, I said. You pushed me in a pool, Caius. You humiliated me. You stole from me. You don't get a towel now just because you realized you're wet. But I have nothing, he wept. You have the consequences of your actions, I said. Now sign the paper. He signed. He didn't have any fight left in him. He signed the NDA, he signed the agreement to vacate, and he handed me his key. He packed his 2 suitcases of clothes. He left the theft proceeds, my earrings, at the pawn shop, knowing I would retrieve them. He walked out the front door into the dark night. He had no money. He had no job. He had no girlfriend. He had no best friend. He was completely alone. I watched him get into an Uber I had called for him, my final act of charity. As the taillights faded, I called the locksmith immediately. Come now, I said. I need every cylinder changed tonight. I felt a massive weight lift off my shoulders. My sanctuary was mine again, but I knew it wasn't completely over. Cosima, his mother, was still active on Facebook. I checked her page. She was posting lies about me, claiming I had manipulated the situation. She wasn't going to let this go quietly. Cosima's posts were getting traction in our local community groups. She claimed I faked the pregnancy timeline to break up Caius and Nella. She called my business a scam operation funded by illicit money. This was dangerous. My business relied on reputation. I couldn't let her spread lies. I called Eamon the next morning. File the suit, I said. Eamon drafted a cease and desist letter, but he attached a draft for a defamation lawsuit. We sent it via courier to Cosima's house. The letter was brutal. Your statements are demonstrably false, the letter read. Your son has admitted to grand larceny and signed an admission of guilt. We have the phone records and the flight logs proving the timeline. If you do not delete every post and issue a public apology within 24 hours, we will file this lawsuit. The kicker was the last line. We will seek damages in excess of $200,000. We will take the house you live in to satisfy the judgment." Cosima went silent. Within an hour, her Facebook page was scrubbed clean. She realized that her loyalty to her son was going to cost her her own roof. She wasn't willing to pay that price. With Cosima silenced and chaos gone, I had one last loose end to tie up. The financial cost of his prank. I am a CEO. I don't absorb costs that aren't mine. I created an itemized invoice. Item 1, vintage silk dress water damage, $5,000. Item 2, pool cleaning emergency chlorine shock to remove contaminants, $500. Item 3, therapist for PTSD and humiliation, $3,000. Item 4, iPhone diagnostics check, $100. Total, $8,600. I emailed it to him. He texted back almost immediately. "I can't pay this," he wrote. "I am working at a fast food place. I have nothing." "Then I will see you in small claims court," I replied. "I don't care if it takes you 10 years to pay it off. You will pay for what you broke." He didn't reply. He thought I wouldn't bother because I was rich and he was poor. He thought it was petty, but it wasn't about the money. It was about accountability. He needed to learn that he couldn't just destroy things and walk away. We went to court 2 months later. It was a small, sterile room. Caius looked terrible. He had lost weight, and he was wearing a suit that didn't fit him anymore. It hung off his shoulders. He tried to charm the judge, a stern woman in her 60s. "Your Honor," he said, smiling nervously. "It was just a joke, a prank. She is very wealthy, and this is just her being vindictive." The judge didn't smile back. I presented my evidence. I showed the video of the push. I showed the receipts for the dress. I showed the text messages proving malice. "Mr. Caius," the judge said, looking over her glasses, "you assaulted this woman. You destroyed her property, and now you are wasting my time by calling it a joke." She banged her gavel. "Judgment for the plaintiff in the full amount of $8,600, plus court costs." Caius slumped in his chair. His wages from his new job, flipping burgers, would be garnished. Every paycheck he earned for the next few years would have a reminder of me deducted from it. He would never forget the girl he pushed in the pool. I walked out of the courthouse feeling lighter than air. I had one final task. I went to the bank. I had the engagement ring he had bought me. Technically, he had bought it with my credit card, which I had disputed as fraud. The bank had returned the money to my account, but the ring was considered evidence until the dispute was settled. Now that it was over, the bank told me to do whatever I wanted with it. It was a beautiful ring, but it was tainted. I couldn't wear it, and I didn't want it in my house. I took it to an auction house. It sold for $12,000. I didn't keep the money. I didn't want his bad karma in my bank account. I used the money to start a small scholarship fund for local high school girls who wanted to study computer science. I named it the Waterproof Scholarship. It was a fitting end. The symbol of his fake love would now be used to help women build their own careers, so they would never be dependent on a man like him. 1 year later, the air was warm and the garden was blooming. I hosted a party. It was the same pool, the same house, and mostly the same friends, minus Nella, of course. The vibe was different this time. It was relaxed, genuine, and filled with real laughter. I stood by the edge of the infinity pool, looking at the water. It was blue and calm. Alaric, a man I had been seeing for 6 months, walked up to me. He was kind, successful, and had his own money. He didn't need mine. He saw me staring at the water. "You okay?" he asked. He didn't push me. He didn't pull a prank. He simply handed me a towel because the evening breeze was getting chilly. I took the towel and smiled. I walked over to the DJ booth and picked up the microphone. The music lowered. "To dry land," I toasted, raising my glass. "And waterproof receipts," Leona shouted from the back, making everyone roar with laughter. I drank the champagne. The water was perfect. I wasn't afraid of the deep end anymore because I knew exactly how to swim. And if anyone ever tried to push me again, I knew exactly how to drag them down with me.